Peace and love, everyone. Namaste, my friends, my soul friends. Thanks for being here this morning. Got a little rain falling out there. Welcome to Not Church, Mysticism East and West. Next Sunday, we'll conclude our journey through Aramaic Jesus, the Hidden Teachings on Life and Death by Dr. Neil Douglas Klotz. It's been quite a ride this past year. I hope you've learned as much as I have. Next Sunday, I'm going to summarize all that we've learned over the past year while reflecting on the parallels between the Hindu scriptures and hopefully my poetic hero, Rumi. Hey, Evaluate. Hey, Janet. Hi, Pat. Thanks for being here live. Thanks for being here by recording. But after Easter, the Sunday after Easter, we're going to begin our exploration of the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, also known as the Gospel of Mary. And on Easter Sunday, I'm going to be away, but I'll share a video with you all. The new owners of Saddleback Mountain Ski Resort in Rangeley, Maine, have invited me back to host an Easter service at the top of the chairlift at 8:30 a.m., as I did for so many years when I was the inspirational storyteller for daily devotions on Maine News Center on NBC here in Maine, a little bit into New Hampshire. Now, how can I possibly say no to a free skiing day among my old friends? So maybe you'll meet me there. If you're in Maine, you're in New Hampshire, it's Saddleback Mountain. I'll be there at the top of the chairlift at 8:30 a.m. I hope to see you there. It was really short notice when I contacted our dear substitute host for Mystic Chai Salon, Dr. Ken Gilligan, who has plans with his wife for Easter, as they should. So this means Mystic Tea Salon is canceled on Easter, April 20th. But I'll see you the following week when we're going to dive into the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of the Beloved Companion. So let's just take a moment here and bring our awareness to our breath. So I'm going to settle in here. Hey, Andrew, good morning. Greetings from South Africa. Evaluate. Wow, South Africa. Someone contacted me from Nepal yesterday. Wow. 47 would love to see the 40 likes. Thanks, Tom. Oh, yeah, thanks, Rose. Yeah, it's going to be a great event. It always is. All right, my eyes are closed. My feet are flat. Take a few breaths, center in before we begin our exploration. Bringing my awareness to my breath. I'm going to turn off the rain outside. Bye, rain. Probably still can hear it because it's right there on the metal roof. Oh, thanks for that. Like, Robert. So today's title is Awakening in the Wilderness, the Mystical Journey of Aramaic Jesus. So as we end this series with Dr. Neil Douglas Klotz, he ends his book by revisiting an earlier story found in Matthew 4. And I'm going to read it in the English translation first from the Greek and then from the Aramaic before delving deeply into the mystical Aramaic. Take off these gloves because it's finally warming up in the studio. So be sure to listen to the Aramaic with the ear of your heart and observe the differences between the two. The story, here's the setting. The story begins immediately after Yeshua's awakening at the hands of John the Baptist and the Jordan River, which is really much more like a stream than a river, if you've ever seen pictures of it or been there, which we covered. We covered this long ago in the Gospel of Mark when we were reading Adyashanti's book, Resurrecting Jesus, Embodying the Spirit of a Revolutionary Mystic. This symbolism of his entire journey of awakening through the Gospel of Mark. Now, Yeshua's awakening was symbolized, as you may recall, by the descent of the dove. I think it's this actually in sign language. The descent of the dove representing the divine anointing. Then a voice spoke saying, "This is my child of unity with whom I am well pleased." So that's the setting. And here we go. This is what happens next from the Greek. Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After 40 days and 40 nights of fasting, He was hungry. The tempter came to him and said, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." And Jesus answered, "It is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but by every word that comes out of the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. "If you are the Son of God," he said, "throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and they will lift you up with their hands, so you will not strike your foot against a stone." And Jesus answered him, "It is also written, don't put the Lord your God to the test." And again the devil took him to a high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. "And this I will give to you," he said, "if you will bow down and worship me." And Jesus responded, "Away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only." And then the devil left him, and the angels came and attended him. So here it is from the Aramaic. Then Yeshua was led by the Ruach Kodesh. We've been talking about that in the Aramaic, the sacred breath, the spirit of holiness, into the inner wilderness of his soul, the Madbra, to encounter the temptations of his napsha, his body, his lower self. After fasting for 40 days, moving beyond the limitations of his physical needs, Yeshua faced the stinging mind, aquel quarsa in Aramaic, the logical but forgetful aspect of self. The stinging mind whispered, "If you are truly Bar Allah, a child of unity, command these tones, the hardness within you, your desire for instant gratification, these stones inside of you, to become bread, nourishment, to fulfill your to fulfill your surface cravings, not your spiritual cravings, but command these stones to become bread to fulfill your surface cravings." And Yeshua gently responded, "Life isn't sustained merely by bread, by temporary fulfillment, but by each breath, every word that flows from Allah, the source, capital S, itself." Then the stinging mind transported him in vision to the pinnacle of the temple, the inner sanctuary of sacred ideals. "If you are truly a ray of unity, cast yourself down into whatever your ego demands," it urged. "Surely the reality of Allah will safeguard you from harm." Yet Yeshua replied clearly, "Don't try to make reality bend to your ego's demands. Authentic connection doesn't serve selfish recklessness." Finally, the stinging mind led Yeshua to the towering mountain, the pinnacle of inner realization, revealing to him all the kingdoms of the outer world, along with the threads of power, success, and recognition. The voice tempted him once more, "All of this can be yours. Simply bow down to me," the stinging mind. "Extend your lower self to its fullest potential. Surrender entirely to worldly ambition." With unwavering strength, Yeshua spoke, "Get weaker, distracting voice. The divine source within and around." At that moment, the distracting mind withdrew. Then the unseen forces of reality's light, the angels, the Laka, as we talked about, the angels drew near, bathing Yeshua in waves of sound, light, and reconnection with the heavenly realm. And that's a very different interpretation of the story, although there are reflections between the two of them. Now, imagine your life as a journey through a vast wilderness, not a barren desert, but a rich wetland brimming with hidden creatures and vibrant life. This wilderness symbolizes the inner landscape of our souls, where we encounter our lower self, gently guided by the Ruha, the breath of the soul. Yeshua, known in the West as Jesus, of course, embarked on such a journey immediately following his profound awakening at the baptism at the Jordan River by John the Baptist. His Ruha, his soul, his inner self, his higher self, united with the Ruha Dakwesha, the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of holiness, the presence of the divine. And he experienced this inner balance between his soul and his self, these two things together. Yet, even after such a powerful awakening, Yeshua was led into the wilderness. So he has this huge awakening, and then he goes into the wilderness where his Akwel Karasa tested his lower mind, his lower self, his stinging mind tested his lower self, representing the logic anchored solely in material realities, the desire for attachment to the world. And from the Greek, it means the Satan, the devil, it means the falsely accusing. So you can see this relationship between the mind telling you what to do and the falsely accusing, stinging mind telling Jesus what to do. Now, for 40 days, Yeshua fasted, symbolically piercing through the limitations of physical desires and bodily needs. Now, near-death experiencers, NDEers, often share a similar journey, recounting moments of breaking free from physical constraints, OBEers, and out-of-body experiencers, constraints, and encountering a deeper, more expansive reality, capital R, beyond ordinary comprehension. We describe this as an encounter with profound light, unconditional love, or maybe luminous unity, a glimpse of the spirit of holiness, the Ruha Dakwesha. Upon returning from such encounters, whether we experience it like NDEers or NDE-like experiences, or deep meditation, one eventually encounters the tempter, the Manasa in the Aramaic, the tempter, the forgetful aspect of the self, doubts and questions the authenticity of our spiritual insights. Maybe when you came back from your experience, you're like, I don't know, was that real? Not real? It's the mind telling you that it wasn't. Yeshua's temptations resonate with many mystical experiencers today. The allure of fulfilling our superficial desires, the urge to demand that spiritual realities cater to our egotistical whims, and the temptation to completely surrender to the pursuit of worldly power and material prestige. Aramaic Yeshua's first temptation involves turning stone, I said stones, but it meant stones into bread, symbolizing the urge to use spiritual energy solely for our immediate physical or superficial needs. We hear this all the time, to manipulate the reality to get what we need. Jesus says, don't do that. Don't I'm not going to do that, is what he says. Man does not live, humans don't live by bread alone. He indicating that our true nourishment lies in our continuous connection, each breath a conversation with the source of all life, Allah. The second temptation, the pinnacle of the temple, represents the illusion that spiritual experiences will shield us from the consequences of reckless, ego-driven actions. Throw yourself down, whispers the tempting mind. Yet, as Yeshua gently reminds us, true spirituality isn't about testing or manipulating reality. Show me evidence, show me proof, but about embracing and trusting as it all unfolds. And lastly, Yeshua is offered dominion over all the kingdoms, our nafsha, our egoic self, our lower self, wants our ultimate desires to be fulfilled, to control and get recognition. His profound response, which is different than get behind me, Satan, it's get weaker, distracting voice. Talking to his own mind, shh, leave me alone, get away, go away. Reminds us to diminish our attachment to our external validations, instead anchoring in the luminous reality beyond names and forms, known as the radiance of the divine source. And Yeshua's wilderness trials offer powerful lessons today for today's spiritual speakers. For today's spiritual speakers, absolutely, and for today's spiritual seekers. including those of us who have encountered the luminous through our near-death experiences or profound mystical moments. First, true spiritual awakening, it's not an end. You have this awakening, it's not an end. It's not like, boom, there's enlightenment. And it's not that at all. It's a beginning. Wilderness to face all difficulties of living as a spiritual person with your own mind, with my own mind. And after experiencing profound insight, we must continue to navigate the wilderness of everyday life, balancing our soul and the self, living in our bodies and the soul at the same time, the balance between them. Our temptations are often subtle, rationalized by logic, yet neglecting the deeper truths. Second, there's a constant interplay between our inner and outer worlds. And in Jesus' day, there wasn't this separation, not in the language, not in the minds of the people, but we have this separation between our inner and outer worlds. The modern separation we often perceive between these two realities is illusory. Illusory, illusory, illusory. It's not real. Every breath and each moment of our awareness reconnects us to our inner world and our outer world. So just by breathing, inner world, outer world, is this natural connection between the two, allowing our inner transformations to ripple outward into our daily interactions and our choices. Our inside becomes our outside. They will know the treasure of your heart by the words you use. The heart speaks. And we're not talking about perfection here, because there's still emotions and emotional and psychology. So don't beat yourself up if you say something you don't mean, or you say something that hurts your heart or hurts the other person. It's okay. Just try again. If at first you don't succeed, try again. And practically, this means that spiritual practice is ongoing and dynamic. You keep doing it. You keep trying your interior connection to align so that your exterior connection is also aligned. Just as Yeshua stayed vigilant after his baptism, we need to remain attentive to our inner dialogue, this voice inside our head that keeps going on, distinguishing between the voice of the deeper soul and the distracting voices of our forgetful self. And that happens when we learn to be quiet, to quiet our minds on occasion, to listen to the voice of the divine. And finally, Yeshua's example illuminates a path for integrating our mystical insights into everyday life, urging us to embody compassion, discernment, and authenticity. If there was ever anyone in the history of mysticism, East and West, who embodied the physicality, the living in the world of his deep spirituality, it was Jesus. It's not separate. We're not sitting in a cave somewhere staring at our navels. We're living in the world. Household yogis, we're deeply spiritual people in the freaking world. And this interior journey that continues, it helps us embody this compassion, this discernment, and this authenticity. Yeshua's wisdom speaks clearly. Spirituality is not an escape. It's not about manipulating the outer world, getting what you want, but a deep, engaged participation in the reality that is unfolding in the right now, right here. And it's as the Gospel of Thomas, and I know, Robert, you love the Gospel of Thomas, me too, as the Gospel of Thomas 5 reminds us, everything hidden will eventually appear. By walking consciously through our inner wilderness, guided by the soul's breath, our own breath, we unveil the deeper truths inside ourselves. They unveil themselves and create lives that resonate profoundly with meaning, authenticity, and connection, even though we are frail, even though we make mistakes. Me too. And we hear and follow our calling and our purpose, no matter what it is. I wouldn't be doing what I am if I didn't have this bloody calling. I would have done something else. But the calling pulls me into my purpose. Our greatest gifts to ourselves and to our world is to follow the call inside us. That's what Jesus was really trying to get people to do. And as I said, next week, we'll do a little summary of this, of all of what we learned in the Aramaic, from the Aramaic. It's been quite a journey. I hope that this whole book opened up your understanding of Yeshua, Jesus, in a way that you can then bring to your reading of the Greek Gospels, the Greek translations. And even if you can't remember everything that we talked about, it will have informed your reading of the texts. Because remember, the Gospels were always written by people. They're always written by people, and many people. And there's layers and layers. Use your heart of discernment as you read. And that applies not just to the Gospels, but to other scriptures as well. The Upanishads, the Vedas, Tao Te Ching, the Rumi poetry, everything. Listen to the ear of your heart. That's what Jesus really was telling us this whole time. You are the light of the world. You really are. So I want to thank you for listening and for your supporting of this channel, of the work that I do here with you and for you. Your charity literally makes it all possible. And you can visit peterpanagore.love, and I super appreciate it. We've been here almost 5 years. 5 years, I think, now. But, we started on Easter 5 years ago, and here we are, still here. I'm amazed. I began this as an experiment, and we're still here. And we're going to be at Mystic Tea Salon coming up. You can join us for our community gathering, Mystic Tea Salon, which the link is in the description. And thanks for your support. You can go to peterpanagore.love. I sure appreciate it. It takes a lot to make this happen, and couldn't do it without you. I'm going to pull this scripty thing away here and take a look at the chat. What we got going on over here? Got a few minutes here. Thanks for listening this morning. Not charity, says Kristen. Investment in the mission. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an investment in the mission and all this stuff. Thank you, Tom. You mentioned this interview I did with Guy Lawrence in Australia a couple of weeks ago. People keep asking me to do interviews, and I accept because I'm really. Yesterday, I was in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I spoke at the Mensa conference, the New Hampshire Mensa conference, and I went on my own dime because they asked me. And I speak all the time when I can because I have a calling to do this. It came back with me. I was born. I had this calling in my first mystical experience when I was 5 to work for God. I'm a reluctant worker. I keep accepting these interviews because I'm trying to spread the idea that common people have these experiences all the time, and it's okay to talk about them in public, that the divine is real, that religion doesn't all have it right, and that people have this living being of the connection of the prana, the chi, the shakti, whatever you want to call it, inside us. And I'm trying to help normalize the conversation in public. And in this room yesterday, there was probably 30 people there, and I was surprised that they wanted to talk about it, and they did. They asked really great questions. It's a calling, and if we follow our calling, you have calling, your purpose, your mission, whatever that is, for the divine and I suspect it's the same as mine, which is to bring the light into the world the best you're able to do where you are. That's all I'm trying to do. And we're doing this together. And our Mystic Tea Salon community, which is coming up, at the top of the hour here, it's crowdsourced wisdom because we're all in this together. So thanks for saying so, Kristen. Rain is finally ending here. We're happily soaked. Love this series, Peter. Thank you. Well, I find that series is really gives me a way to find what to work on next, but also it deepens my understanding too. So I learn as much as you guys do. I'm a student as well. So this has been great for me. Liked spirituality is not an escape stood out today. Yeah, thanks, Hildy. It is definitely not an escape. And if I could escape my spirituality sometimes, I would, but I can't because it's like, ugh. So there you go. Thanks, KJ. Kristen, the ministry. This really is a ministry. I resisted that language for the longest time because I was trying to get away from churchiness. But the buddy of mine, when I was out skiing this winter on for free out west, the Episcopal priest I was with, he said, if you lean into some of that Christian language like calling, you'll be able to understand what you're doing a little bit better. And so I started, oh yeah, it's a calling. That's right. We all have these callings. Enjoyed your interview with the Awakening Beyond Life Summit. Thank you. That was another thing that I was asked to do, and I try never to say no. If people ask me, I try not to say no. Thank you. Thank you for your authenticity and humility and sharing. Love shines through. Not my love, that's for sure. It's the divine love. It's not me. I know my frailties, or at least I'm getting to know them better anyway. Thank you. Emilio Ortiz, Just Tap In podcast must invite you, the Next Level Soul also. Thank you, OB Yoga in Montreal. I have been on Next Level Soul. I'd love to go back, but I don't know about Emilio Ortiz. Just Tap In. I go where I'm asked. I try not to put myself forward. I just, people ask me, I accept. If you know those folks and they want to reach out to me, that'd be great. You're welcome, Peggy. The visits, even like our tiny gathering in Hartford, Connecticut, interviews are gratefully experienced. Thanks, Rose. And thanks for being here wherever you are on the road as you drive around the nation delivering. Sure appreciate it. I'm going to skim back up here before I go. Instead of asking him to help, I ask him, how can I be of service? That is the difference. Help me, help me, help me, as opposed to how can I help? Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Ask not what God can do for you, but what you can do for God. That is really reality for spirituality. Thank you, everybody. We've got only a couple minutes. I'll see you at Mystic Tea Salon. The link is in the description. I'm going to take a 3-minute break. I'll be right back on Zoom. Peace and love to you all. Thanks for your support. PeterPanagore.love. Namaste, everybody. Thanks for being here.